Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's May 19th, and these are your headlines. First up, we've got some striped bass and some really nice ones piling up in eastern Buzzards Bay, probably setting up that first run through the canal. Could happen any day. Over in Rhode Island, we've got phenomenal squidding going on, which is firing up the fluke and firing up the local striped bass population. And throughout all of southern New England, we've got sea bass opening this week. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
So we'll go through the news items first. The first one, of course, is the giveaway. That's going to wrap up 1 week from today. I think that's the 26th. And basically, if you don't know what it is, I'm going to build the winner one of these. This is an original. This is a Gibbs jointed GT. Used to be a secret weapon for the Cape guys. Could be a secret weapon for you too. So I will make one of these in whatever color you would like. If you win this thing, there's going to be 2 runners-up. I got a whole bunch of new stuff to give away from Yuzuri and Band of Anglers and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'll be rummaging through the box of fun over there to make a couple guys' days. All you got to do is send me fishing photos. They got to have you in the picture. Can't be your shoe, can't be your fishing reel, can't be a quarter to show scale. And send them over to me at danderson@thefisherman.com. I will pick my 3 favorites, and I will send out the prizes after that. Again, this wraps up a week from today on the 26th, and the winner will be announced the following week. Another thing that's important to mention here, if you're a Connecticut fisherman, or even if you live close to the Connecticut border, Black Hall Outfitters is having its season kickoff event this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. And just about everything in the store is going to be on sale, somewhere between 10 and 20% off. And, so if you've been thinking about getting a brand new reel or a brand new rod, and it's just that price is just kind of making you hold your breath a little bit, hey, head over there. You might get 10%, you might get 20% off. And, that discount is applied store-wide. They're giving away T-shirts to the first, I think, 50 people who spend more than $75. They got free food and drink on Saturday. Just a lot going on. There's casting clinics. There's going to be reps from just about every major manufacturer that you can think of. And if you're thinking about getting into kayak fishing, the entire Old Town fleet is going to be on hand for you to test out, try, and scrutinize so you can make the perfect choice for your style of fishing. It's one of those things you kind of can't miss, so I would definitely recommend heading over there. It's going to be at their Westbrook location. If you need more information, you can check out their social media or go over to blackhalloutfitters.com and click your way through from there. Last up, sea bass opens this week in all 3 of the southern New England states. So in Connecticut, it opens today, the 19th. In Massachusetts, it opens the 21st. And in Rhode Island, it opens the 22nd. I don't know why they couldn't get together and just open all on the 20th or something like that, but that's the way these regulations work. But regardless of that, no matter where you fish in southern New England, you're going to have a new species to target as of this weekend, and going forward through the rest of the month and on into the summer. So that's something to be excited about, and that's your headlines.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
So we'll start off in Massachusetts, and it sounds like the striped bass fishing is really starting to blossom. So I talked to James Jukes this morning. He said that the fishing up in Plum Island area has really just come to life over the last week. Where they were struggling to get fish the last few weeks, but they were catching. All of a sudden this week, he said he was finding fish just about everywhere he went, from the beaches and the rivers, anywhere pretty much. He said most of these fish are in that 23 to almost 30-inch range. A couple guys getting some bigger ones up in Lawrence, although he said he won't go anywhere near Lawrence because that place has deteriorated into a mob scene. And there's been a lot of unscrupulous stuff going on over there. A lot of guys keeping fish outside the slot, a lot of guys keeping too many fish. The EPOs have been out in force, and they've been writing some tickets and trying their best to curb this whole thing, but sounds like the mob mentality has taken over. So might be a place to avoid, but if you don't mind fishing in a crowd, that might be one of your best bets for getting a bigger striper right now. Heading down the coast, into the South Shore, south of Boston, kind of heading down toward Plymouth. I have spoken with a few guys that are fishing in that area, and they've been really surprised by the size of the stripers that they're catching, to start things off. It started off with bigger fish. It started off with fish in the mid 20-inch range. Now they're seeing fish into the mid 30-inch range. And that's an early start for them. So that's been exciting. Guys are getting them on a variety of different baits. I know that the tsunami sand eels have been catching well over there. I know they're feeding on herring pretty heavily, so guys are getting them on like SP minnows and hydro minnows and things of that nature. And pencil poppers and smaller poppers are also catching some fish. As we continue on and kind of head into the canal is producing, but it's not going off. So I talked to Greg from Red Top, and he said that this is typically when he expects to see that first push of like fish up to 25 pounds come in, and they really haven't come in. There's been a few fish up to 40 inches taken out of the canal, but the lion's share of these fish are still 20 to 30 inch fish. Magic swimmers, especially the smaller one, fished along the banks, is getting a lot of fish. Things like the savage sand eel fished real fast along the banks, also getting a lot of fish. The bigger ones have been coming on jigs, but it's been a slog trying to find that one or two better fish right now. But there is hope waiting out in Buzzards Bay, and we'll get to that in a minute. On the north shore of the Cape, on the Cape Cod Bay side, I haven't really heard much. It doesn't mean nothing's going on. In fact, I would expect that Barnstable Harbor is starting to pop off now. That's kind of an old school place too. A lot of the guys that fish there say you got to fish live mackerel or you're not catching. I find that pretty hard to believe, but I'm not a regular there, so I can't say for sure. But if it hasn't already started, it's going to start within the next week. So that's a place to keep an eye on. On the outside of the Cape, I know the fish have kind of made their way around the elbow at this point, and so that's starting to produce. They're starting to get some fish into the low slot out that way. As you come around into Nantucket Sound, that's where you've got a better shot at getting more consistent slot-sized fish, maybe even a shot at like a 36, 37-inch fish. And also a place where you expect to see early bluefish. I haven't heard a report of bluefish there yet, but I'm expecting that to happen any day. Coming through Woods Hole into Buzzards Bay, that's where the magic is happening right now. There's a lot of bigger fish in there. I haven't heard of anything gigantic. I haven't heard of any 40-pounders yet, but there's definitely 20 to 30-pound fish in there, and lots of fish in that like 14 to 20-pound range. Guys are getting them day and night. Variety of baits and lures are working, and they're just kind of inching their way closer and closer to the canal. Typically, it seems like that water temperature comes up to a certain point, and then they go through. And so at this point, it doesn't seem like that water temperature has been reached because we're on the moon. That's when you'd expect them to be drawn in, and they just haven't been drawn in yet. Of course, it could have happened this morning, or it could happen tomorrow morning, and we just haven't heard about it yet. But that's definitely something you want to keep an eye on if you're a striper guy, and especially if you call the canal, your favorite place to fish. For bottom fishing, still hearing decent reports on winter flounder, although talking to Jason Colby, it seems like these moon tides have, that increase in current speed has made the drift a little tougher, and they're just not getting as many this week. So look for next week when the tides slow down a little bit again. Look for that bite to fire back up. Haddock fishing also still producing great numbers, so if you head out with one of these guys to do in Cape Cod Bay to do the flounder thing, pretty good chance you're probably going to head offshore a little bit and do some flounder fishing once you reach your limit, and that's a serious freezer filler right there. So that fishery is looking really good. On the freshwater side of things, I've been hearing good things about bass. On the Cape and just off the Cape, still some really big fish being taken. I'm expecting these fish to bed up pretty much any day now, but it seems like they haven't bedded up yet. A lot of big, fat female fish being taken on a variety of lures. It does seem like jigs are more and more becoming the top taker of some of these bigger bass. Trout fishing continues awesome on the Cape, and in interior Massachusetts, to wrap up the Massachusetts portion of the report, let's toss it over to Roy Leva and hear what he's seeing out in the western part of the state.
Hey Dave, at Al Gag Shop today. We're filling in some orders, and I'm grabbing a few chicken scratch for the river tonight. Water levels on the Connecticut River have come up. They were at extremely low all last week. Not a lot of fresh fish pushing in, but river did come up a foot yesterday. So now it's running around somewhere around 13,000 cubic feet per second. So I'm gonna go out tonight and search for some stripers. Other than that, the trout fishing continues to be strong. They've done a lot of the small creeks and brooks around Western Mass. They're still doing some lakes, not a lot, not as much as before, but around here, you know, mostly brooks and creeks, browns, rainbows, and brookies. What else we got out here going on? Catfish, channel cats are starting to pick up pretty good, especially right now with the river being low. You can find them in some of those deep holes, and I'm speaking about the Connecticut River here. Other than that, bass fishing is kind of going to take a dip. I did get out earlier this week. We caught some really nice smallmouth bass in the river, and then some really nice largemouth bass on some of the lakes and ponds, but it does look like they're going to start spawning. And with the temps being so warm, you know, the past overall week, and this Saturday and Sunday getting up maybe into the 90s, I can only see them getting on beds really, really strong. So I'm not much of a bed fisherman, so I'm going to lay off the bass and probably go chase some, you know, stripers and cats and shad and whatnot. So it's getting there. It's like we came from spring to summer real quick, so it's kind of this like weird week, but it should be going great, you know. And there's always trips to Cape Cod if not. All right, catch you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Roy. Appreciate the report. Talk to you again next week. And that's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. In Rhode Island, we're seeing, you know, just a burgeoning, blossoming striper fishery. Definitely seeing some bigger fish now into the 30-pound class with more regularity. It's been mostly a boat game. I saw that my buddy Rob Taylor, Newport Sport Fishing Charters, has gotten some bigger fish this week. And I've seen and heard and seen with my own eyes that some of these fish up in the bay are getting a little bit bigger. So we're seeing some fish, you know, up to 40 inches in the bay. I still haven't heard of that first 30-pounder coming out of there. I'm sure someone has caught one. But a lot of those, like, slot to just over slot size fish up there, and big numbers. You know, when these guys get on them, they're really getting on them. So that's been a really good thing, and it still seems to be concentrated on that western side, you know, from the north end of Jamestown all the way up to Providence pretty much. But in that corridor seems to be the hot zone for bass right now. Togging shows no signs of slowing down. These fish are up shallow. Guys are getting them from shore and from boat. I haven't heard of any monsters this week, no double-digit fish, but plenty of fish in that 6 to 8.5 pound range again this week. And this just seems like nobody's having trouble getting tog right now. Something that's pretty interesting that's going on is that there's been a pretty good weak fish bite in the bay. No one's given up the exact location, but you know, you want to find those places where the tide is accentuated. That seems to be where these fish congregate, and when you do get on them, you can get on a lot of them. I saw one of my friends, Todd Treones, on Instagram. He said he broke his personal best many times in one night last week. So that kind of gives you an idea that not only are there good numbers of weak fish around right now, but there's some big ones. And then down in South County, bass fishing is looking good. There's been worm hatches in the ponds. There's a lot of fish around the breachway openings right now. So most of these fish have been topping out in the high 30-inch class. But I'm certain that there's a few bigger ones, and by next week there's going to be some even bigger ones. And to wrap things up in Rhode, fluke. Squid fishing has been really good. The guys have been crushing them out there, shore and boat, but especially seems like the boat guys have been smashing them. And this has brought in some fluke and brought in some bass. The fluking still seems to be off to kind of a slow start, especially with regard to keepers. But you know, when the fluke numbers are down, the best thing to do is to look for those clouds of squid and fish beneath them. That's a really good way to find some concentrations of fluke and, you know, maybe get a couple keepers in the box. And that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Over in Connecticut, striped bass fishing is looking phenomenal. Really from one end of the state to the other. Guys are doing very well. In the Eastern Sound, the Thames River has had decent numbers of fish. Most of these fish are topping out, at the top of the slot, let's say, and a lot of schoolies in that area. But if you head across out to the race got its first big shot of fish this week. Nothing of huge size, but lots of slot-sized fish and big numbers. Double-digit numbers of fish were easy to come by, and I heard of catches up to 40 fish in one day for guys out that way. Connecticut River's been another place to focus on. Whether you're way upriver fishing worms in the bottom and getting mostly schoolies, but some slot fish up there. Still some bigger fish up in the tributaries. And then down toward the mouth, guys are getting some better ones. Fish up to 40 inches, guys are getting them on the dock. They're getting them on big, soft plastics. Daytime fishing has been especially good. And the night guys are starting to see some more fish now, chunking bunker or, fishing some bigger plugs. So that is starting to come together. Max wasn't able to put a video together today, said it was too windy out on the boat. But he told me that out in the Western Sound, they're starting to see a stronger influence of bigger fish now. They're starting to see, those 20, 25, 30, even 35-pound fish moving out of the East River. They're being caught on mojos, they're being caught on bunker spoons, they're being caught on deep diving trolling plugs. Guys are getting them here and there on bigger casting bigger plugs like the dock or the splash walk. And of course, chunking bunker is producing some fish as well. Up inside the Norwalk Islands, there's been good numbers of, let's say big schoolies to just at the top of the slot. So like 25 to 35 inch fish. Guys are getting them again on a lot of the same stuff that I mentioned from the Connecticut River. Smaller topwater plugs like a top knock, swimming plugs like an SP minnow or a hydro minnow. Small soft plastics like a sluggo, things like that. All those things are working. Bass fishing has just been excellent, again, from one end of the state to the other. Fluke fishing seems to be kind of up and down. Depends on where you're talking about. Out in the Western Sound, most of the guys are having to cross over to New York to find them. Central Sound, it's been about the same, but as you get further east, Narragansett Bay area, guys are starting to find some fluke on our side, not having to cross over. So, and not just throwbacks either. Guys getting fish up to 26 inches. That was the biggest one I heard of from, officially Connecticut waters. Guys heading to Montauk and the Peconics are not having a hard time finding limits, especially at Montauk. So that's, if you really need some fluke, that's where I would head. Scup fishing, same thing. You're heading across to do your most damage. Montauk, Peconic Bay, those areas. But they are around and they're starting to filter in closer to home, more and more every day. On the freshwater side of things, I know the shad fishing in the river has been status quo. It's kind of hasn't peaked, it hasn't dropped off, it's just kind of flatlining. So guys are getting them, but they're working for them. They're getting 2 to 3 in a 2 to 3 hour session. So it's about 1 an hour per angler. So they're there and they're being caught. Just hasn't seen that fever pitch day yet. Trout fishing's been awesome. It seems like I get pictures almost every day of a kid with a big trout caught in Connecticut. They just do a great job. Deep does a great job stocking, and it just hasn't stopped. I just keep catching nice fish up there. Freshwater bass-wise, I haven't heard a lot, although I have heard one last thing, freshwater-wise. Carp fishing on the Connecticut River seems to be picking up, and some better fish are being taken. Not everybody knows this, but the Connecticut River is considered a world-class carp fishery. And if it's something you're thinking of getting into, that's definitely a place you may want to put some time in because it's definitely productive. That's what I have for you guys in Connecticut this week, although we are going to take another look at what's going on down in Costa Rica. So let's head away to paradise real quick.
Hey guys, checking in from Marina Pez Vela, Costa Rica. If you guys have not heard about our marlin, fad and seamount fishery, you got to look into that a little bit more. May through November is the best time of year to go fish our marlin fads. These trips take place on large sport fishers, of which we have plenty here at Marina Pez Vela, 60 to 120 miles offshore. The trips are 2 to 4 nights and will put you on the best blue marlin fishing in the planet. Right now is the best time of year to go fish for them, and you can expect, when the bite is on, upwards of 10 blue marlin shots per day. Right now is the best time of year to go, guys. Check us out, Marina Pez Vela, Costa Rica. Hope to see you down here soon.
So that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope you found them useful. There's just so many fisheries that are popping off right now. Don't forget, black sea bass will be open in all 3 southern New England states, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, by Sunday. So next week and beyond, you can add that to your list of target species. And striped bass, it's just popping right now. Things are looking good, and it's only going to get better. And don't forget to send me your fishing photos. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.